Okay, hello class. Welcome. Today's lecture, we're going to discuss Windows 2016 Server. Primarily, the job of a server is to serve, right? That is, serve a whole lot of other computers with a lot of resources that that server has, right? That server is able to manage and control those computers and even users that are all part of a domain. Right? Think of a domain as a company or a school where people have email addresses. They belong to the company, they belong to the school, and their computers are all managed and registered with the organization, right? So I'm going to share my screen now and we're going to discuss a few things. Just give me 1 second. Okay, so here we go. All right, I have a few things that I wrote down already. So this is going to be a Windows 2016 server overview. We're going to discuss the domain controller, what that means. We're going to discuss joining and connecting computers to the domain, creating new users on the domain, remote control of the computers, and assigning permissions. So um, basically, let's start by saying that right here I have Windows, I have Hyper-V Manager, right? Hyper-V Manager, if you on your computer, you can look for Hyper-V Manager and it's right there. When you open up Hyper-V Manager for the first time, it's probably blank. And then you have the ability to basically install a variety of operating systems, right? So you're able to control those operating systems sort of virtually, right? So you can see right now that on my screen, Um, if you're new to this, you're going to have material, or resources, lectures. So you should have gotten all the information about setting up your Hyper-V up to this point. All right. So this is more of not an intro. There are other lectures that discuss the intro to Hyper-V and virtualization. But here we're looking specifically at Windows 2016 Server. So I have the server already installed, and I have two virtual machines installed, a Windows 10 and a Windows 7. All right. Windows 2016 server is the server domain controller, and the other two are just imagine that, it's a small company and you have, several computers in the company that you want to be managed by the domain controller. We're just using two computers as an example. All right. So let's go on here. Here is the server, right? Here's the server right here. And I'm going to open up the dashboard of the server. So you should have, at this point, installed Active Directory on Windows Server. There are other lectures for that. And to know that you have Active Directory, you got to see Active Directory domain services here, DNS. And especially when you look down under tools, you're going to see that you have Active Directory, Administrative Center, Domains and Trust, module, especially Active Directory users and computers. So if you don't see any of these options on your Windows 2016 server, you want to go back to the other lectures and the instructions of how to set it up. We're just going to keep going at this point. So one of the important jobs of a server is to be a domain controller, right? A domain controller basically manages and controls a lot of resources. So for example, let's go to tools and go to Active Directory users and computers. All right. So here's a domain. Depending on what your organization and stuff, the name might be different, but it's going to be very similar to this, right? It's gonna have a .org or .com. name to it. And under the domain, you're going to see various various items and resources. You're going to see built-in. These are built-in roles, right? For example, administrator. You see, if I can expand this here, you can see administrators. The administrator is a role, and administrators have complete and unrestricted access to the computer and the domain, right? So usually in an organization, you're going to have an administrator. This might be the CIO, Chief Information Officer, the network manager, the IT manager, IT director, whatever the name is, but there's somebody whose job it is to sort of be the controller or the manager of all IT services, or whoever is appointed to be the administrator anyway. So various roles. So whoever is assigned, or if you have multiple administrators, they're all going to have complete and unrestricted access to the domain. All right. If we go down this list, you also see uh, remote desktop users. It describes it as members in this group are granted the right to log on remotely. So when you have computers that you want to manage, well, you need to be able to remote into those computers without having to be there physically. So let's um, say Sarah calls you from her desk, says, something is wrong with my computer. Can you help me? Well, you can just log on to her computer from where you are without having to be there physically. So this is the role that does that. We have other roles right here. We have the users role. Basically, the users says they are prevented from making accidental or intentional system-wide changes. They can run most applications, right? So every staff member, whatever your role, you're basically going to be a user first, all right? So we have many other roles here, depending on what the job is that needs to be done. So these roles have certain permissions attached to them. So if somebody gets hired, they're going to need to be in one of these roles. And the administrator is going to determine what role, or I guess whoever is hiring the person, what the person is being hired for. So we have computers here. The example well, in this example, one of the computers, that is this computer here, the Windows 10, I believe that is this one. The Windows 10 computer has already been joined to the domain, right? We're going to see how that works. We have a Windows 7 here. We're going to also join the Windows 7 to the domain so you can see how it works, how we do the joining and stuff. But every computer that is joined to your domain will be listed under computers. So as many computers as you have and you want to manage in your organization, they're all going to be here. Let's jump down here to users. So users are, regular users that are in the organization. All staff, whatever their roles are going to be listed here. All right. So let's go back so that's basically the job of a domain controller, right? It is to control, let me minimize this here. It is to control the domain, right? Let's go back here. Let me minimize this here. All right. So the domain controller is a server, right? And you're able to manage, multiple users, multiple computers, and even have a server group, multiple servers. But we're just going to restrict it right now to explain the basic details, right? Managing computers, managing users, having the computers in your domain, right, be managed and be joined to the domain. How does that work? How do they join, and how do you remote control into those guys, right? All right, so let's look at our note here. So generally an overview of the domain controller. So let's look here at how we actually will join a computer to the domain. All right. Like I said, the Windows 10 has been joined. And one of the ways that you know that a computer is joined to the domain is you're going to see, for example, you're going to see that, okay, for example, if I click on other user, well, a user with a username and a password, you can see here it says sign into HQ. right? Now HQ, if I go back to the domain or to the server and go to local server, the local server is the domain hq.justastart.org. Depending on how your setup is, the name might be slightly different, but that's going to be the domain. All right. So what you're doing here on this Windows 10 machine is it's asking you to sign into the domain that you're already a part of. Now you might say, well, how did you get this to appear here? If we go to the Windows 7 and let's say we want to log off out of here, let's log off. Now there is no option here to log in to any domain. This is what you refer to as a standalone machine, or maybe you say it is a work group. It is part of a work group, not part of a domain. What does that mean? Okay, just one second. So, well, we're on this topic. So let's use the Windows 7 to explain what we mean by that. Windows 7, again, like I said, there's no way to log into any domain. It's just a regular supervisor username. But Windows 10, you can see that it asks us we can log in with a username and a password into a domain, right? In Windows 7, it's like it's already been signed into the supervisor, right? Kind of like there's only one account. On most computers, computers you probably have at home, when you buy the computer and you set it up, it is just your personal computer, right? It is not controlled by anybody else, by any company. It's just your personal computer. If you're in a school and you use school computers, or you're in a company or a business, you're most likely going to be issued a computer at the business or on the job. Well, you're going to have a login requirement. So we're going to use Windows 7 here to demonstrate let's say how you upgrade a standalone computer, right? And make it join a domain. All right, so I'm going to log in here. All right, so let me explain here. Now, one second, let's go back to Windows 10. I'm going to log into Windows 10 here, and maybe this will be a bit more clear to you. All right, let me close this here. I have a few things open. All right, so take a look at this here. I'm going to go to Control Panel. I want to see the name of the computer. Just going to type name here. So see the name of this computer. All right. So you can see here that the computer is part of a domain. You can see that with the HQ, justastart.org. If I click on change settings. Um, Now, because this computer has been joined to the domain, right? One of the things you want to do as one of the I guess the management functions of a domain is to be sure that regular users are not able to make changes without authorization, right? So because Windows 10 is now a managed computer, part of the domain, well, we're trying to do something that requires permissions, right? So as an administrator, as a network manager yourself, you want to be sure that all the computers in your organization, right, are managed and people can't just do whatever they like without permission, right? So I'm just going to put in the correct administrative password so we can bypass that. All right, so now we're able to, see some of those. See, every time you see the shield here, this shield, it's telling you you need admin permissions to do that stuff. So somebody in the organization who is the admin can, access this permission requirements. Regular users should not be able to, right? So that's an advantage of having a domain system. All right, so you see here that it tells us there's a domain here, right? And so if I click on change, it's part of a domain. You can see it's a member of a domain, not a work group. Now let's switch to the Windows 7 so you see the difference. So Windows 7, I'm going to do the same thing. Go to Control Panel, see the name of this computer. All right. So when I click on change here, you can see that it didn't ask me, there was no permission required because it's not part of a domain. It just allowed me to go forward. And if I click on change here, now you can see here that it says that this supervisor PC is a member of a work group. So it's not controlled by anything. So on your personal computer at home or your laptop, if you go through this system properties, you're going to see the same thing, that your computer is most probably part of a work group, which means it is a standalone. You manage it, you are the administrator, you have full control. When we switch back to Windows 10, we can see that Windows 10, if you're having a hard time keeping up with what computer I'm on, just look at the top here, top of your screen, you can see this is Windows 10. All right, so it tells you what computer we're on. So Windows 10 has been joined to the domain, right? It tells us here. And when we go back to Windows 7 up here, it is not part of a domain. So now we want to join into the domain. All right? We want to join into the domain. When we join into the domain, we're going to see on the server that it should now be listed here, right? Now, the computer that is listed here, this is the Windows 10. How do we know that it's the Windows 10? Well, desktop D13 TPRC. What is that? Go back to the Windows 10. You can see this is the Windows 10 here, right? So that's the name. And another way to verify the name of your computer is to go to CMD, the command prompt. Not that. Go to the command prompt and type in, as you know, ipconfig /all. And so you can see here that this Windows 10 is a desktop D13 TPRC, which is what is listed on the domain right here, D13 TPRC. So that's that computer because we have joined it. So this is the process for joining it. So back to Windows 7. All right. So once you come in here, you just click on domain, and that domain is HQ, right? Now, depending on the operating system, Windows 7, Windows 10, sometimes you have to write out the full domain name, just a start.org, and sometimes you just write the first HQ before the period. But let's see which works in this case, right? So click OK. Well, it doesn't like that. It doesn't like that. So let's take out this part and just leave the HQ. All right, click OK. And now it's asking us for the username and password to go to the domain. All right. So let's take a break here, but not an actual break, like we're gonna stop. Let's go back to the server, to the domain, and let's create a user. So we're gonna say that the supervisor PC, so for example here, we're gonna say that this computer belongs to the supervisor, and let's create a supervisor, somebody like a person, a user. All right. All right, so let's go back here. And so here's how you create users. All right, so right click on users here. Make sure you're under the domain. Users, right click, go to new and go to user. We're just gonna come up with a random name. All right, we're gonna call this user here. We'll say this user is Jerry. And Jerry's last name is, what's a good last name? George. Jerry George. So we're going to say Jerry's logon name is first is J George, right? uppercase or it could be lowercase, J-G-E-O-R-G-E. All right, so you can see that here. We click next, and you give him a default password, right? Just a basic password, and you can see the first option here. The user must change the password at the log on. All right. So again, this is you as the administrator. You have a new employee and you're creating an account, right? Because this employee is going to be a part of your company and they're going to have a managed account, something that you can manage. You can manage the user, you can manage the computer, right? And provide assistance and, you know, always good to be able to manage all the resources in your organization. So let's create a basic password here. Just the basic password. All right, whatever password you create, you got to let the user know, here's your password. But when they log in themselves for the first time, it's going to ask them to change the password. So in this case, this is Jerry. Jerry has to change his password when he logs in the first time. So this is Jerry George, and let's finish that up. All right. So we got Jerry George over here. Let's create another user just to demonstrate. So new user. So this is going to be, let's say, uh, Lisa. And we're going to say Lisa's last name is, what's a good last name? Um, Grant. Lisa Grant. How about that? Okay, so Lisa Grant, her username is going to be Lisa, Grant, Lisa Grant. Again, same thing. We create a basic password. And we're going to tell Lisa, here's your password, but you got to change it when you log on. Next. Finish. Okay. Now let's see something before we move out of here. So George is the supervisor. We want George to, George to be like, if we go back here, this Windows 7, this is going to be George's computer. He's the supervisor PC. All right. So, but let's just demonstrate giving this guy some added permissions, right? So let's look at properties, right click on George, go to properties, and you can see all these different properties. You can, if there's an, you want to put in George's address, telephone, different things, the organization, his title, department, but we're not going to bother with all that right now. We're just going to go to member of, all right, member of. So we want Jerry to have some permissions so he can do some things, right? So let's say we're going to add Jerry to be an administrator, right? Jerry's also going to be an administrator. Let's just demonstrate that. So we click on Find Now, and then we can look down this list. You can see administrator. So we're going to make Jerry an administrator. Um, okay. So let's just do okay on that. We click OK here. And now Jerry is going to be also an administrator. Okay. Click apply. Click OK. And we're going to leave Lisa as just a regular user. Go to properties, member of, and Lisa is just going to be a regular domain user. Okay. All right. Cancel. All right. So now let's go try to log in as Jerry. Okay. So go back here to Windows 7. All right. So now let me just drop this here. I think we've established the fact that the computers are connected, but a couple of things here that we should look at. That is, first of all, switch, and then we look at we're gonna look at a switch, SCTCH, or more like a virtual switch, a virtual switch, right? And then also we're gonna look at ping. All right, so very important, this virtual switch. So I'm going to go back to Hyper-V. When you're setting up all your different machines, right? In Hyper-V on the right side, you can see here a virtual switch, this option. All right. I'm going to click that option. And when you click on, you're going to click here, I believe. No, you're going to click on default switch. Let's see. Network switch. Yeah. So network switch, make sure you're selecting the external switch. If you're doing this for the first time, you click on external switch, you click on create virtual switch, and it's going to create a new virtual switch, like right here. All right. That virtual switch, right, is like a physical switch that all the computers can connect to, right? If you are in an actual lab, you will need a actual switch, right? And all your computers will be connected with a cable to that switch. So here, this is a virtual switch so that all your Windows 7, your Windows 10, and your Windows 2016 server can all be connected to that switch. And once they're connected, they're basically on the same network. All right. So you're going to have a default switch when you are installing, but when you get to the point where you have to select the connection type, you want to select your new, well, you can rename it, but it's probably going to be called new virtual switch. And that new virtual switch is connected um to your network, to your NIC card, right? Your network interface card that is installed on your host computer. So my computer here, uh, the if I show you my computer here, let me go to my go to my yeah, go to my right here. So IP, go to my command prompt, ipconfig slash all. If I see that here, actually, well, an easy way to see that information is to go to my command prompt, control panel, sorry, go to control panel. And in control panel, you will see that right here on the view network status and tasks, and I go to change adapter settings, and you can see right here, right? That's my Realtek PCI family controller, right? That's my NIC card. So bottom line is your new virtual switch is actually connected to your network card. And so make sure you're selecting that external. You create a virtual switch so that all the computers are connected when you're doing the setup phase, right? Doing the setup phase. For example, let me just show you setup phase. So you click on new here, virtual machine. So you go to next. I'm just going to give this, say test virtual machine. Say next. Leave it here, next, next. When you get to this point, you can see that I have my new virtual switch, which is the external switch. So every computer you're connecting, you have to select this. If you select the default switch here, it's just going to be a standalone machine. It's not connected to anything, right? So make sure you do that. All right, so hopefully that helps. All right, another way to verify connectivity to the other computers is to ping these computers, right? You ping the computers. Now, once you connect it to the virtual switch, every computer gets assigned an IP address, all right? So I have already verified the IP address. For example, the IP address of the Windows 10, actually, let me just go to the server. The server's IP address, I can see it here, is 10.0.0.245. So from the server, I should be able to ping all the computers and back and forth. So if I ping here, 10.0.0, the Windows 7 is, I think that is, let me get the IP address. ipconfig. So the IP address of this Windows 7 is 10.0.0.248. So another way to verify connectivity, right, is to ping the 248. All right. When you ping, it should come back with a successful ping. That's where you know all the computers are connected, right? They have to be connected for the domain controller to work with those computers. So make sure you can have all that that is working. And then reverse from Windows 7, I can, no, this is Windows 10. From Windows 7, no, this is the server. All right. So from Windows 10, I should be able to ping the server in reverse. That is 245. Let me just verify that the server is 245. Yes, 10.0.0.245. All right. So Windows 7 is here. So I'm going to ping. The reply should be successful, right? So we know that we have good established connection between the computers. All right. Okay. So right now I'm going to log in as Jerry. And let's just verify Jerry. Jerry, what's Jerry again? So minimize this. No. Oh, this is Hyper-V. So we're going to, yep, right here. And Jerry is Jerry George, J George. All right. So we go to Windows 7 and we log in as J George, George. And Jerry's password that we gave him was just the default. Check, I don't think that's correct. All right, so let's see. So let's give that a minute. Actually, I'm not even sure that Jerry's password will work, but Jerry's an administrator, so it should work. We should be using the administrator's password because this is an administrative function, right? When you're trying to join a computer to the domain. Um, all right, so a few things that we need to take care of, all right? Um, so let me just first of all verify with the password. So I think the password should be administrator. Admin one, I think it is. That's the user. There's a user that's an administrator that we created earlier. Let's see. Yeah, I want to sure I have the right password, the right admin password. Okay. So the following error occurred. An attempt to resolve the DNS name. All right, so let's see something else here. All right, let's see something else here. So one of the requirements when you're joined to the domain, let's go back to the control panel here, is to make sure, no, we want to go here. You want to make sure that, well, let me show you the settings. You want to make sure that you have joined right here, right? Okay. You want to make sure that the DNS information here, right, matches the IP address of the server. All right. That's a requirement. So right here, we're going to put 10.0.0.245. All right. The preferred DNS server info here has to match the IP address, right, of the server. And we know that the IP address is 10.0.0.245. If we just verify that here, we can see that information right here, 10.0.0. So that's a requirement. All right, let's go back to Windows 7. So we got to set that up. We didn't set that up before. So you do that, you click on OK. Um, let's see, what do we do there? 10.0.0.245. All right, so we select, yeah, so we put in the IP address. I think I might have accidentally clicked something else. All right, so you click on the IPv4 and you put in, so it has to match, right? 10.0.0.245. That's the IP address of the server. So we put that in there. We click OK. We click close here. This should be fine. And now let's go back to do the joining. All right, so click OK. Now let's see what happens here. So this should be fine, except there's something else that we haven't done. But we tried, we pinged and the ping was successful. Still a little complaint, so give me 1 second. All right, so once you've you've now for Windows 7, so again, like you said, you can see that I put in domain, I put in the domain, I put in the username and the password, and you give it a minute, and it says, welcome to the domain. So you want to see this message and you know everything's okay. All right. So you click OK. It says it has to restart. You click OK, you close, restart, and it's going to restart. It might take a little bit to restart, but while it restarts, let's go back to our notes. So we have done this part, which is to join to the domain, and then once the computer restarts, we're going to see now that we can log in using one of our users. So you can see right here, okay, it's already back up. So if you remember, okay, well, let's do this. Control Alt Delete. Okay, so here we gotta go into 1 second here. So let's go to virtual. Okay, we want to do, I'm just trying to get the controls of this Hyper-V so I can do Control Alt Delete, because when you use your computer for Control Alt Delete, it doesn't actually work. All right, so we can hit Control Alt End, Control Alt End, right? So now you can see here we got to click switch user, and now it allows us to log in as another user, right? We didn't have these options before, right? Now it says we can log into the HQ. So we're going to go back here, and we see that we have a user who is Jerry George, J George. Remember that we set the both users, Jerry George and Lisa Grant, that when they log in the first time with the default password, right, it's going to ask them for their to change their passwords and stuff, right? All right, so let's go and do that. Let me just be sure that we are still recording. Okay, I'm not. So, all right, I think it's fine. Yes. Second. All right. Yeah, when you're recording, you always got to be sure that recording is still going on fine because you're going to spend a few hours recording and you forgot to share your screen, you forgot to record your audio or something. So we're all set. We're fine. All right, so let's go back here. Now we're going to log in as J George. And the default password we gave Jerry. Oops. So if everything is fine, it should ask us to change it. There you go. The user's password must be changed before logging on the first time. So we click OK, and now Jerry has to put in a new password. Okay, so all right, password has been changed, and now so this is successful in terms of how a user, right, connects to the domain, a new user, so we can see that we logged in under Jerry. And one of the ways to verify that is to, let's see, we go here. Yeah, right here you can see that this is Jerry George logged into the computer, right? So this is no longer a standalone machine. And if you go into control panel, and you look at the network status, you're going to see that right here, you are part of a domain now. And like what we did before, if you try to, let's go back here, and you want to change, say rename the computer. First of all, it's not going to allow you, right? Because now the computer is being managed, all right? So you have to go in here uh, as the administrator to be able to do any of those permission things. And obviously, if Jerry tried to change, it's already part of the domain, so you can't just change, right? So no longer a work group, no longer a standalone computer, right? This computer has been joined to the domain, and now is managed. All right. Okay, let's go. Let's move on here. All right. So let's go back here. Now, when we look under computers, we should see, we probably need to refresh the page. Now we can see, yep, that the supervisor PC, which is the Windows 7, right? Windows 7 supervisor PC. Um, yeah, just see the name of this computer. So we can see that the supervisor PC, how do I keep saying VC? PC, right, is now joined to the domain and can be managed, right? So the next thing we have on our list here is remote control the computers, right? So let's say as an administrator, right, you want to remote into, the Windows 7, okay? So we're going to go, so right now we're on the server. We want to remote control into the Windows 7. Let's just assume that the Windows 7 was in a different place and you're in a different place, all right? Um, so basically we go to remote connection, and then we just verify the IP address of Jerry's computer, command prompt, IP config, and his is 10.0.0.248. So we can use that to connect to to remote control to Jerry's computer, right? So hit connect. It's going to ask us for the admin password. Click OK. And now it's blinking. It asks us some permissions things. You click yes. And now it's going to say there should be a button here. Yep. Another user is currently logged onto this computer. Obviously, Jerry is logged into the computer. So we have to disconnect because as admin, we want to log into that computer. So we click yes. And now Jerry has to, okay. So we go back to Windows 7 and you can see here that it's saying that uh, the administrator wants to connect to your machine. Click OK to disconnect. So we click OK. And now we go back here and now we are going into Jerry's computer, right? So pretty cool, right? So now we have logged into Jerry's computer, right? We have logged in Jerry's computer. And we can go to his files. So, well, let's do this again. Let's just say that Jerry has some files. So um let's go back to Jerry and this is an update. Let's just snooze that update for a second. So here, Control Alt End. So Jerry is going to go back into his computer. Yep, and Jerry's going to go back. So let's say Jerry goes back to his computer. The administrator has to release the hold, so to speak, on Jerry's computer. All right, so the administrator has been kicked out. Jerry's back in his computer. Jerry wants to reconnect to his computer. Now Jerry's back in his computer. Uh, Let us verify that that's Jerry's back. Okay, so Jerry wants to say, Jerry wants to place some files in his computer. So let's go to his C drive right here. And it's going to put a file there. Just say Jerry's file. You just put a folder, right, in there. Okay, so now let's see if the folder is blank. Jerry's files is the folder is blank. So we're going to go back to administrator. We're going to log in again to Jerry. Jerry has to grant permission for that to happen. So we switch back to Jerry here. Jerry says, okay, you can come right in. And now we have gone into Jerry's computer. All right. So let us go into his computer. So you can see that this is the file that Jerry made. All right. This is the folder that he made. We can see we're accessing that. So we're going to drop something in there. And we're going to say, hi from the admin guy. All right. So now we're going to log off from Jerry. So let's say we're done with what we're doing on Jerry's computer, right? So now Jerry's going to log back into his computer, Control Alt End, to see what did this administrator need on my computer? Uh-oh, wrong password. All right, so Jerry's going to go back to his computer, go to his folder, and you can see that the admin guy left a message. Hi from admin guy, right? So an interesting concept, very useful in a business, in an organization, right? There's control. We know uh, that Jerry can't do any admin things without admin permission. He can't just download anything he likes. If he wants to go in device manager, it's going to prompt him. He says, for example, he's trying to click on device manager. He says, you are logged in as a standard user. You can view device settings, but you must be logged in as the administrator to make changes. So he's not allowed to make changes. All right, he can view it, but he can't make changes. Or how about here? Well, asking him for an admin password. So there's a lot of control which every organization needs in trying to keep things managed. All right. So assigning permissions. So we just saw that, right? Like when we go in here to the user and we have different permissions for users. So let's try one more user. We have a user, Lisa. So let's see Lisa here, Lisa Grant. So one of the advantages of a domain is any user can log into any computer in the domain. All right. So Lisa is going to attempt to log into this Windows 7. Remember, right now we have Jerry logged in, Jerry George. So Jerry is going to log off of here. Let's say Jerry is going to log off here. He's going to log off. And now Lisa is going to log in, other users. So L Grant, like I said, the benefit of a domain system is that any domain user can log into any computer. So even though this is a virtual demonstration, it works in real world if you are in a lab or you're in an actual office, right? So again, the policy that we set works. The user has to change her password. So we click OK, and now Lisa is going to change her password. Okay, the password has been changed, and now Lisa is logging in. So whatever computers are in that domain, any user that's an actual user is able to log in. So it's a way of managing resources. You can see now that Lisa is logged in, right? And Lisa has her files are separate from Jerry's files. So if Lisa goes into her Windows, into her PC, she's seen Jerry's files. Lisa shouldn't be seeing Jerry's files because she's got a different profile. So uh, let me just see what is happening here. That shouldn't be. So let's see here. Let's do something. I might have skipped something when I was doing that because right here, users. All right, so it shows us the users of this computer, Jerry George. Now we have Lisa Grant. Um, so I think that technically, yeah, technically all Jerry's files should be in here and not here. I think that's why we're seeing this. Everything should be on the user. So Lisa Grant, for example, should see her files here. So if we go to Documents here, let's create a folder for Lisa. Say create a new folder. Let's just say this is Lisa's documents. All right. Uh, yeah, that's Lisa's documents, right? So let's just verify something. Because when you are logged in, your profile is completely separate from the other user's profile. All right. So Lisa is going to log off here. Okay, Lisa is going to log off here. And now Jerry is going to log back in. So Geor, J, and so let's see what happened there with the files because the point of the domain is everybody's files is separate to everybody. So if we set this up right, then this should Jerry should not be able to see the file that Lisa just made if we got everything right. So let's see. So we're going to users and all right, so you can see that this is the right way to have done this. So Jerry is trying to go into Lisa's files and he's not able to do it. So this is the correct way. We made a mistake before when we put it outside of the C drive. So this is what happens. A user will not be able to see another user's files. All right. So Jerry, who is logged in now, right, is not able to see Lisa's folders or files without admin permission. And also, so now Jerry is going to create stuff in his documents. So, and then we're going to go in as Lisa to verify that Lisa can see Jerry's um stuff. So we're going to say Jerry's files, let's just say private. All right. So we're going to log off now as Jerry. And then we're going to go back as Lisa. So this can happen in a typical office, right? In a typical business. So Lisa Grant, going to log in. All right. So Lisa is going to go into this files and go in here. This is the correct thing. So Lisa is logged in now. You can see that this is Lisa. Lisa is going to try to go into George, and Lisa is not able to go into George because she doesn't have permission. So this is the proper way, right? So this was when we did this earlier, that demonstration was a mistake. But basically, when everyone is logged in under their own individual profiles, right? So that way your files are separate and distinct. I mean, under users, you're going to see all the users that have been logged in, but except you have administrative permission, you can't log into somebody else's files or folders. It's all walled off, right? Lisa is trying to go into administrator, not allowed, right? So, um, so that's how it works. We can see those permissions have been granted, and if you go into uh, into the Active Directory users and computers, you might want to, add more permissions to a user. So if I go to member, I might want Lisa to have more permissions. I just go to add, go to advanced, find, and depending on what the role is that you want the user to have, you got to scroll down and assign that role. But every user by default is a domain user, but they are restricted, right? And their computers, every computer in your organization is on the domain, and you have control. You can log in to those computers, you can manage them. And so a domain system is an effective way for a business organization to run in helping to manage its users and manage the computers. All right, so that's the end of our lecture and discussion on a Windows 2016 server or any server at all. That's first of all, it becomes you set it up as a domain controller. You can join using Hyper-V, or you have a few different virtualization options, Hyper-V, VirtualBox, VMware. And in any of those cases, you got to verify that they're all connected, right? By having a common switch, virtual switch, and when you ping. Also, let me add this. Another thing that helps is to verify, use nslookup to verify DNS connection, right? Basically, when you're setting up the server, right? I think I showed you that earlier, that the DNS settings on each virtual machine, right? For the DNS settings, it has to point, right? DNS on the, let's call them workstations, must have the IP address of the server. So things to be aware of there. But if you run if you run nslookup in the command prompt, it will show you if it's connected to the DNS to the server. by pointing out this IP address. Basically, here's what I mean. Just the last thing. So CMD. So if I run nslookup here, right? This is the information you want to see. This is the IP address of the server. So if you have this, then your connections are good. All right. So you want to run nslookup on each of your virtual machines and make sure that this is showing. All right. And then we've seen how to create users and assign them permissions, and also how to remote control into the computers. All right. I will talk to you later.